And Jeff, that's just why I think you're such a. Oh, are we live? I'm sorry. Step into a world shrouded in ash and darkness, where legends come to life and ancient powers linger. Welcome to Adventures in Lollygagging. We are playing Forbidden Lands. Join us as we set sail on long ships and explore the unknown, braving untold danger and discovering what hidden treasure lies beneath ash and snow. Sorry, the countdown was a little off there. I was just telling Jeff how beautiful he is. We are starting our session here. We had quite a dramatic session where Bacho went through some struggles, ended up dying and being returned to life by Gunk's quick thinking and a magical artifact that the pack had found. Gunk. After that horrifying, traumatic experience, you spent some time on a raft trying to communicate with your longship, the Seabeard, trying to telepathically tell them to return to shore. We've established over multiple sessions now that you are quite the swimmer and lifeguard of sorts. Where did Gunk learn to swim so well?
So, as we know, Gunk is originally from a warren in Kotzen, to the northwest of where we are at. And when he was just a pup, didn't even have the name Gunk yet. When he was just a pup in this warren, there is a terrible flood, terrible storm, terrible flood. And to give you an understanding of how the warren was, we have seen some warrens. It's very crowded, but also it's not very democratic. It's very mob oriented. And when the flooding came, no one tended to the pups, to the pup room. Everyone, they sort of scattered on their own. And so Gunk, not yet Gunk, and many of the other pups, the Skraeling pups, were forced to learn to swim. It was very much sink or swim. And it was a very terrifying experience watching so many Skraeling be washed away down into the deeper tunnels, sometimes being washed out into the rivers and the streams, and some, like Gunk, was able to find his way, strengthen his arms and legs, and find safety. And it is an experience that has very much stayed with him over his life, as he was taught at a very young age the arbitrary nature of death, how it comes sometimes far too soon to good folk and far too late to bad folk, and it comes unexpectedly to those who are not ready for it, and it comes sometimes painfully and slowly to those who are. And he saw that day all these poor young Skraeling pups struggling, and no one within the warren willing to help us. And so that was then that Gunk learned to swim, but to also be self-sufficient, because he knew even then that this warren would cast him aside, would abandon him eventually, because they did, very young.
With those thoughts in mind, you've made it back to camp. The Seabeard made it to shore. The crew has started scurrying about, rebuilding the camp, gathering supplies to put back onto the ship, with word that you've discovered a shipwreck that can be used to repair that ship. They're not necessarily trying to make a more permanent camp. In fact, many of them have decided that they're going to sleep on the ship overnight, just in case there's any more horrific encounters. Before that happens, though, Zaldrin, Wolford kind of singled you out. He waited for a moment where you were by yourself, and he came up to you. And Zaldrin, I have to say, I suppose you're the reasonable one of the pack now. I don't know how that. Anyways, you're the reasonable one. And I just want to tell you that crew tried to leave without you. They wanted to start sailing to halt us. And I told them, no, we have to anchor, and we are waiting for the pack. And as he's saying this, you see a sailor walking behind carrying some supplies that just kind of gives a look, but keeps walking. And I'm just saying, like, there was even one or two. They wanted to take your coin and treasure and divvy it up. But I said no. I put a stop to that right away. So I just want you to know, and you can tell the others if you want. You don't have to, but you can tell the others if you want, that I protected you.
So you want to make sure that I am aware that you are loyal to the pack.
No. Of course I'm loyal. That goes without saying. I was saying that there are some people that may not be loyal. And just, take that with, whatever. Just, yeah.
Just sure. They appear to be here now.
Well, yeah, because I stopped them from leaving. I told them they had to stay. I was not going to let them leave without you.
And they all listened to you.
Well, of course, I'm very charismatic when I need to be.
Oh, I should go have a talk with them and see just how it was that they made.
Oh, no, you don't have to talk with them. It'd be a little awkward, because then I'm snitching on them. You don't need to talk to them. You don't need to make any waves or anything, but I just want you to know, be careful with them. If they say something to you, you may not want to believe it.
Oh, what might they tell me?
Nothing. I mean, in the future, if you leave them alone without me here to watch them, they might try to leave you or something like that.
I see. Well, to be honest, when we're dealing with issues like, the death of a pack member, I can't say that my concern was really with the silver.
Oh, no, I understand. Of course, Bacho, he's very dear to me. But I'm just saying that you may not want to trust them, and I have some sway over them, I've discovered. And I know that there's a new space open for a shipmaster, something like that. And I think I've built up a rapport with them, just throwing it out there. That's all. And I'm loyal to you.
You have told me that you are loyal to me. I will take this under advisement, packmate.
Thank you. I knew you'd be the reasonable one. The other ones, they just get so grumpy. And Mirren she's been so mad at me ever since you guys killed my brother. She's blaming me for trying to leave him. I don't get it. Anyways.
I think if you put some thought to it, I think you might be able to see it from her perspective. But I understand you see things from your perspective and you don't necessarily see things from other people's perspective. And I understand that. Message received.
Don't we all see things from our own perspective?
We yes, naturally, but if we take a moment to think, we can see things from someone else's perspective, and that helps us as a pack when we can try to see what someone else might want.
You know what? I get what you're saying. I'm seeing this from your perspective right now. I know exactly what you're talking about. We are right on the same page. That
I'm so
we're completely aligned, and it's just great to know that we have such a bond of trust and loyalty between us.
Yeah, so right now that I'm looking to exit the conversation and get back to what I was doing. You knew that's.
Oh yeah, thinking, of course.
Yeah, because you can see things from my perspective. Great.
Yeah, of course. What were you doing? Were you making camp? You want help building the tent? I'll come help you.
Come on.
And with that, you're just not able to get away from Wolford. He seems stuck to you the entire night. The night passes mostly uneventfully. Zaldrin might end up a little bit grumpier and less rested than the rest of you. You learn that there's going to be a bit of work that will entail in repairing the ship. The next morning, everyone packs up camp. They put it all on the Seabeard and they start sailing north to the shipwreck. It's not a long sail. You didn't have to travel far walking between the two. So sailing makes it a little bit easier, even despite the poor condition of the ship. And this is where the crew has started to make a more permanent camp. You still have one more full day of darkness, full night of darkness, before the light will finally arrive. Everyone is exhausted. Everyone is tired. There are about 16 crew members that are left. You started with almost 24. So there's been some casualties. Honestly, it could have been much worse if you weren't around. but there's still a toll that's been taken physically and emotionally. So the crew themselves have not yet begun to truly repair the ship. They're waiting for light to happen. What are the four of you doing to rest, recover, train? Let's start with Aaron. What does this day look like for you?
Macho is coming to grips with this, who he is now, or trying to understand if he still is himself. He's reaching deep within himself, feeling the warmth of this artifact burning through his body, and he's focusing on what that is going to mean for him, how that has changed him. So he's training. He's actually training in the lucky talent here. He's picking up the lucky talent, but it's going to manifest as a property of his union with the artifact, as it's reaching through him to give him strength and help to protect him. And I made my wits roll earlier, so I went ahead and trained up on that. But he's spending a good portion of that day just trying to come to grips with who he physically is now and trying to determine if it has changed him emotionally or mentally. So, and part of that is he's approaching Zaldrin. Zaldrin.
Yes.
I need your counsel. I need your help.
What can I do?
I was unmanned in that last battle by that Wendigo. The fear of it turned my bowels to water. But you were stronger, and I know that you've often told me of your training to become an orc warrior. Between you and I'm not 100% sure of who I am at the moment, what I am. Will you help ground me? Will you help teach me what you were taught so I can find my own center?
And in this, he's training to pick up level 1 of the fearless talent, which Zaldrin already has. So that would be how he's focusing on this last day of Gwinnott.
And Zaldrin, perhaps to your chagrin, says, yes, exactly. We will do this. And then kind of walks away. Like, I think you were kind of expecting that something was going to happen right then. And she makes it her mission to catch you off guard.
Okay.
So I'm picturing, I don't know that this is actually a thing, but sort of the old school stories of like walk around campus with a football in your arm and you never know when somebody's going to try to punch it out kind of a thing. Like you never know when she's just going to come up behind you and just startle you or like get someone else to startle you. And so for like 48 hours, you just don't know what's happening.
I'll be the Clouseau to your Cato any day.
And there are quite a few instances where Zaldrin does get you, Bacho, where you didn't know she was there. There are also a few instances where you heard Woford just chattering nonstop around a corner. So you knew someone was there, and then you look and you see Zaldrin just exhausted from Woford next to her. But for the most part, when she was able to get away from Woford, she was very much able to train you. When it comes to your lucky feat, you said you were spending some time coming to terms, and I assume you were alone during that, really just trying to focus inward. There was one instance where in the darkness, you went a bit further away from camp. The cold isn't bothering you anymore. You leave your furs back at camp. You don't need them anymore. And you just sat and listened to this intense wind howling, trying to feel the cold, just wondering if it's even there. You know that it's there, but it just doesn't affect you the same way. And it's hard not to let that scare you. A sensation that you've experienced so many times over your life is just gone. And you're not numb, but it just doesn't hurt the same way it used to.
And
While
Bacha
you're
would
there-
burrow. He'd be burrowing down in the snow, just trying to find some way to get to the deep cold, just to try to feel it.
You dig down and you get down to the ice, and you just find you dig a big enough spot that you are literally sitting on ice. You're almost freezing to it. You're kind of sticking to it every time you pull up, but the ice is also melting a little bit from your body heat on top of it. And while you're there, just waiting, trying to come to terms with this, there is a point where you sort of fall into a trance, not necessarily like asleep, but a sort of daydream where you're fully conscious, but your mind is wandering, and you start seeing yourself at the end of a feasting table. And surrounding this feasting table are people that are just, they look magnificent to you. However you feel like the peak person would look, likely a Wolfkin, because that's what you are. These are the Adonises of anyone you've ever seen. Peak perfection. They stand 2 feet taller than you do. Incredible muscle tone. They're all attractive. They all look as if they're capable as well, with the way they're geared, with the way they move themselves. And they are just having an amazing time carousing with each other. They're yelling at each other. They're laughing with each other. These words are intelligible to you, but at the same time, they don't sink in. You're not really registering them. And there's someone on the far side of this table, not actually at the table, but in the shadows of this feasting hall. And she is just staring at you. And for a moment, you enjoy as if you're carousing with them, but then you lock eyes with her, and something just feels wrong. You know that you are being watched. But again, this is a daydream. So before you can really figure out the logic of it, figure out what it means, you're out of it. And again, you're on the ice, you're surrounded by snow, the ash is falling down, the wind is howling, and that's the end. This same trance daydream would likely happen to you multiple times as you're trying to come to grips with what's happened to you. Especially when you focus inward, that's when it happens more often. But occasionally, if there's a moment of boredom, if you're doing some sort of mindless task, whether it's setting up a tent or repairing something, that's when it can happen as well. Whenever your mind wanders, you can't really force it to happen. Zaldrin, what do these days look like for you, other than scaring Bacho?
So what I'm hoping is that in the process of kind of training up Bacho with Fearless, that's also kind of improving Zaldrin's Fearless as well, kind of like going back through the basics of like, this is how you kind of increase your attention and whatnot. So looking to actually jump 2 ranks in Fearless. But after that, she would have a conversation with Wolford, and she's going to say, you know what?
Oh, you need me? Yeah, I'm right here. Anything you need, Zaldrin.
So glad. So glad. So I need to work on my scouting. And what I need to be able to pay attention to is when someone is lying silently in wait to attack me.
Oh, I know. So I'll get one of the sailors. I'll get 5 of the sailors. I'll get them to just, I'll post them up around camp. I'll have them like lie down under furs so the snow comes over them. And then when you're like going around the camp, I'll have them jump up at you. That sounds good.
But I need you to be one of them though.
Well, no, I have to coordinate. And I'll be with you.
You've got to be one of them.
Well, I have to make sure that you stay like in the same routes and things like that so that you don't like, if it's a big camp. If you wander the wrong way, they won't be there to jump out at you.
I mean, I can find somebody else to help me if you're not willing to.
No. I can take care of this. I can take care. Okay, so I'll get 4 sailors and myself.
And you.
And we'll all post up around and we'll scare the shit out of you.
It's a silent.
That's what you want, right?
Ambush.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell them not to actually hurt you, but like we'll come at you with knives if you want.
Because I'm scouting, so I'm scouting to see if I can find the people that are there silently looking to ambush me.
Oh, well, that's a little less boring. That's just like hide and seek, isn't it? That's a little more boring.
I suppose.
Are you sure you want me to do this? There's a lot of people that are less capable than me.
I think it would be great.
Okay,
it would be great. Silently
we have
hiding.
this bond now. We have this trust, and you can count on me. I got your back.
This is why I come
protected
to
you while you guys were gone. I just want you to remember that.
Gunk is far better at stealth than you, but I came to you for this task.
Okay. Just because he's tiny and his fur is so muddy that it blends into shadow, he's got an unfair advantage. Is all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say.
In the snow, I think that's the wrong color camouflage.
Well, it's dark out.
But anyway, let's start now. Right now. Starting now.
Okay. Well, I gotta find 4 other sailors. But yeah, I'll go now.
Okay.
And he goes and he pulls these sailors off from legitimate work to try and tell them how we're playing hide and seek now with Zaldrun.
And so Zaldrun will find the 4 sailors and send them back to their work quickly and not find Wolford for.
Give me a scouting roll. This doesn't actually matter. I just want to see how well it goes.
Have I sorry, I was working on a talent for this. This was 6 cents.
You can count the talent as being upgraded before you do the scouting roll.
Sweet. I can add a D8 artifact die. Okay, D8 artifact die. Sorry. Scouting artifact D8 roll. 2 successes.
Ooh, okay. The first success, you immediately find these 4 sailors before they'd even really started hiding. They were still kind of huddled up, are we really supposed to hide around camp? And you see them after the moment that Wolford walks off and you tell him, go back to work, whatever. With the second success, you find the tracks that lead to Wolford immediately. You know exactly where he is. And for the rest of the day, you're able to avoid him, scouting around him, to not have to deal with him anymore.
Once it's mealtime or something, I will loop around the long way and just be just jump out.
You see, actually, you jump out around mealtime and you find that the spot is empty. And as you go to the rest of the camp where the fire is, you see that Wolford has already begun eating. Apparently, he got bored a little bit later and decided to get dinner.
But I still didn't hear his voice all day.
You still didn't have to deal with him. He was still trying to avoid you. Mirren, what are things looking like for you?
Well, unfortunately, first and foremost, all of the weapons are broken. We've got to repair Bacho, your sword. Gunk, what did you break again? Stabs? A bunch of spears?
Literally
Zaldrun?
Everything. I apologize.
Literally everything. I know I've got some bows and crossbows. Zaldrun, what did you break?
I think it was my long spear that got broken.
Great. Who wants to help?
I will help you, Mirren. I will help you.
Thank you, Bacho. There's a lot of weapons to repair. You guys did a lot of damage. An extra pair of hands would be great. Thank you, Bacho. And Mirren will go through the process of repairing our weapons and teaching Bacho how to craft and repair the weapons as well.
All right, let's get some. You have to roll crafting to repair them.
I
correct?
do.
Yeah.
I do. And do you mind? I'm going to grab one from the audience because this is a strength-based skill. And Bacho's going to be a lot better at it almost immediately.
You can take +1 for Bacho helping as well.
Oh, nice. That is very good. That is no 6s. The 1 is on my actual crafting skills, so I will put that aside and push. Don't knock myself out again. Don't knock myself out again. Okay. We have 1 6. 1 success.
1 success. So that is able to replace or repair 1 point of damage. Am I correct in that? We haven't actually done
Yes.
crafting to repair, I believe.
I haven't done it before. No, I probably would start with my bow, and I would teach Bacho his sword, how to repair his sword. So I got 1 back on the bow. Great. My bow needs 2, so I'd be trying to do that again. Let me see here. And that is 1 down on strength. All right. I am going to try to repair my bow and all the other weapons again. Okay, there we go. So there is 2 6s, no 1s, so I'm going to push again. And they're the 1s, but they're on the craft dice, so that is fine. So that is 2 successes. So my bow is repaired, then 1 point on something else.
Can Bacho take a swing at repairing his own sword now that Mirren is showing him the ropes?
Absolutely. And I'm reading here, if you want to spend more time than the minimum required to craft an item or repair an item, you get a +1 modification as well.
Oh, okay. So the spears, Gunk, the spears, do they only have 1 point of damage normally, or do they take more to repair?
That is a great question. Because I think it's based upon the quality of the item, right? So
yes.
The staff is just 1. So it's just 1 on the staff, and it is 2 on the long spear.
Okay, well, the staff can be repaired, and the long spear needs 2.
Let's go ahead and roll this together because you're repairing 2 lengths of wood.
Things,
You're basically creating 2 different shafts of wood, so you can do that at the same time.
Bacho got 3 6s on his repair roll for his longsword.
Perfect. So you've learned how to craft, and you've been able to take the nicks out of your sword, fix the bends, that kind of thing, replace the hilt.
I hear, Bacho, you can do Zaldrin's thingamabobber next, and I'll get Gunk's other thingy-mabob.
Indeed. Thank you. Thank you, Mirren, for teaching me this.
Honestly, I've got to start dinner soon, so this is really helpful just to have another pair of hands around.
I got two 6s.
2 6s for Gunk's thing, so it is repaired as well.
Okay. So Mirren spends a good amount of time crafting. Did you try to learn anything during this time, or do you want to save that for the next day?
I'll save that for the next day because I do believe crafting does take a while to do. Yes. Teaching Bacho at the same time is pretty good because that is a dispersion of some of the load. So I think I'm happy with that. I will bother them later.
Like you said, you have to get dinner ready. So after you've spent a whole day working and crafting, you get dinner ready. And as soon as you get a slight smell coming out of that stew, Wolford is there. And he's kind of like watching over his shoulder constantly, looking like for anyone who comes around. But he is just glued to you and trying to take sips of the stew before it's ready, just chattering nonstop the entire time.
I think Gunk is looking for you, actually, Wolford. Dinner will still be another hour.
No, actually, Zaldrin's looking for me, and she's not supposed to find me. So I'm going to stay here.
Great.
I'm going to make sure that she does not find me.
Don't want you here. So just go away for a little while. 1 hour.
I'm a helpful person.
No.
Oh, Mirren, I feel like we need to
sit in the
sort
corner
some things out.
Over there, and you can watch.
Like I feel like you've been mad at me ever since Ekfelin. You know, like I wasn't actually leaving the party. It wasn't anything about you. It wasn't you. It was me. Mm-hmm. You know, it was just some things I had to deal with, and I don't know why.
Go deal with them in the corner over there.
Okay, and then can I get one more sip? And he goes to reach for.
No.
Okay.
Ladle him.
Slap his hand away.
Wolford, it's time for your combat practice. Come with me.
He goes white and then slowly moves away from the fire. Gunk.
Thumbs up, Bacho.
What does this time look like for you?
So Gunk is going to at first take some time to himself and to do some reading, as he's going to with the resurrection of Bacho. He knows, like Gunk knows deep down, like Bacho was dead, and Bacho is now alive, and so Gunk has, for the first time, managed to, well, not necessarily for the first time, because he also controlled the undead. So like this idea is like just raging through his head, the idea of understanding, overcoming death, and he's convinced that these tablets have more to teach him. These tablets that we've been carrying on for a while. So he's going to, unless you have a specific way of conveying this, he's going to spend some time reading as best he can. And he also actually will chase down Wolford at some point for some testing. So
let's start with the reading.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Yeah.
As we've talked about before, they're written in Ashkesh, an ancient dead language, and the runes seem to be magical. They constantly shift and change. You've developed a familiarity with Ashkesh, so it's not as long to translate as it used to be, but it still takes quite a bit of mental power. Gunk obviously has plenty of that, but it takes it.
Yeah.
Let's say that you're reading this in a tent a little bit sheltered from the wind, likely by yourself. There's plenty of space now that the crew is busy working. They're not all sheltering right now. The fire in this tent is flickering light and shadow across. You're straining your eyes to read. You can read in the dark, but in this like in between, it almost makes it harder at times. And out of the corner of your eye, you see on the canvas of the tent, there is a shadow that appears again. And it's a humanoid shape. It starts rather small, maybe a foot or so. And then as the fire continues to flicker, it grows and grows until it's about the size of the entire side of the tent, 3-4 feet. And it's a hooded figure. It's very indistinct. It could be a figment of your imagination, but at the same time, these flames are flickering. They're licking at the cold air, and this shadow itself is not changing. And you see this hooded figure. You're almost personifying it at this point because you're watching it so closely. Where its arm would be, it begins to just move out to the side, almost as if it's holding a palm up. And then, strangely, a beam of light comes right out of the fire and shines where its palm would be. In modern day, it would look like a flashlight. To Gunk, it would look like it would be magic, where the way it shines this spotlight, but it's in the shape of a skeletal owl. He's holding a skeletal owl is the only way that you can comprehend this.
Do I hear anything?
Other than the flickering of the flames and the people working outside the tent, the howling wind, nothing to do with the shadow.
Okay. So, and it's still there. It's still on the canvas.
Yes, you get the sense that it's not watching you, but it's keeping you company.
Gunk will look over at it, kind of raise an eyebrow. Does it move when he looks at it? Like, because you said it's at a corner of his eye. Does it shift and move, or does it stay?
It started at the corner of your eye. As soon as you watch it more, it almost seems to take a more defined shape. It becomes more real the longer you look at it. You look at it a little longer, and the light reflects, and you start to see folds in the robes. You see more definition. It almost becomes like 3D. It's obviously not. It's still on the tent, but there's depth there.
Can you speak?
Give me a manipulation. Actually, give me a lore.
That's way better. Whew, okay. I can do that. All right. 2 successes.
You ask it, can you speak? And you feel as if there should be a response. And instead of actually hearing words back, you hear the sound of an instrument, a flute of sorts. Just a long tone, a pleasant tone, but a long tone.
Does it look like it's coming from, like, because you're saying like some of the visuals that I started to see details. Do I see like a
You
mouth
still can't see a
moving
face or
okay.
anything like that. You still see it's just a hooded figure with a skeletal owl.
Gunk will
And with
attempt
that-
to. Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say Gunk will attempt to sort of like sheepishly mimic that sound as best he can, like try to whistle a bit, which is not an easy thing for a Skraeling to do, I would imagine.
I want a performance for that.
Okay. I'm going to take it.
Not as good as lore.
No.
Got it.
I got one. Got a success.
With that, this skeletal owl, and not many people have seen owl skeletons. They're very strange shaped. They have very long legs. The body of an owl is mostly feathers and air. So seeing a skeletal version of it, it's unsettling.
Mm-hmm.
And when you try to mimic that tone, the owl begins to spread its wings and it takes off from the hand. And with that, the fire begins to flicker and the form on the tent begins to just fade away. Not immediately, but slowly.
Gunk will step out of the tent and try to see if he can figure out which direction the owl like flew off to.
Yeah, you've done a couple checks already, and they were both successes, so I'm not going to ask you for another one. You step out of the tent, watching this light, and the fire is no longer giving off that spotlight, but you do see that there is a bit of light still following in the snow, and it shoots off dramatically fast as an owl can fly, much faster than you can move, towards the direction that you know isn't very far away, the ice cavern that you all came out of.
Okay. If that's the case, Gunk is not so bold as to go there by himself, though he does entertain the thought, I think. As maybe he takes like 15, 20 steps outside of the camp and then he realizes, no, if something were to happen to me, then the pack would fall apart, so I must return. And so that's how he sells it to himself. It's not his trepidation.
As you say that to yourself, from behind you, you don't even hear this person approach. Wolford, are you saying something?
And then because he startles me, I think what happens is Gunk is going to lash out with some sort of newfound power. He's been digging into this necromantic path of the dead. I'm trying to decide if I want to be like really mean right now or if I just want to be kind of mean. What do we think?
Your call, buddy.
Really mean or kind of mean?
I mean, how much did he startle you?
Yeah.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Let me see.
Let me roll for it.
Okay, I'm going to go 50. So just do a 50-50 and we'll say, hi, it's really mean.
He got 3 nat ones for his stealth roll.
Okay. So I'll say he doesn't startle me too much. So then he doesn't necessarily like freak me out to the point where I unleash everything on him. So instead, I will just turn around to him and I'm kind of discovering the terror spell. And I've been messing around with telepathy and getting into his mind so frequently. And now as I reach into it with the intention of kind of scolding him, this necromantic, this path, this obsession with death floods into his own brain. And he sees images of himself aging and dying and I will actually cast the spell Terror, and I'll cast it at power level 2. I'll burn my.
You're even increasing the power level.
I want him to feel. All right. It's a 4 and a 3, so there's no mishap. And so he takes 2 points of wits and empathy damage because it's equal to the power level, and he sees horrible images of his own aging and death.
Oh God. I'm ugly. What happened? I'm ugly.
You have been
And
ugly
he just kind of like
birth.
staggers back.
Do not sneak up on me. I am far too powerful. I cannot control all of this. You are lucky I have not sucked the life from you.
Is this you? You're doing this awful magic?
Awful? Awful magic. This is powerful magic. This magic is the reason Bacho is alive and we are all still here. Be careful. And then he'll get like really dark. Be careful who you call awful, Wolford.
I just came because Zaldrin doesn't want to find me, and Mirren kicked me out of I was trying to help her cook, and this is awful.
Okay, sit down. Sit down. It's going to be fine. God,
he
I'm
just
so
kind of
tempted.
collapses into the snow.
God, I'm so tempted to cast Weight of Ages and age him up like 20 years. But I'm not going to do that. That's villainy. So not quite there yet with Gunk. Like, it is fine. You are very useful to me. You have confirmed what I have already suspected. My powers are growing. Thank you, Wolford. You have been an excellent assistant. Excellent.
I am helpful. I'm good at helping people.
And as long as
I
you
don't want to help
remain
you anymore.
helpful, as long as you remain helpful, you will be under my protection.
Do you think if I'm helping Zaldrin, do you think I'll be under her protection? I'd rather be under. I mean, no, I like your protection. Yeah, thank you.
That is the correct answer. All of the other words before it should have remained inside your head.
There's too much in my head right now.
That has never been the case in your life.
I'm gonna go back and see if I can get some stew.
That sounds like a good idea. Bring me a bowl too. I'm kind of hungry.
He staggers up and stumbles away, running as fast as he can, not actually moving that quickly. He trips on the way back. You don't see him the rest of the night. He does not bring you a bowl of stew.
Wow. Really? Really? Well.
He's so scared of you, he doesn't want to be around you.
Noted. Noted.
The day passes, the night passes. You settle into rest in this camp. Like I said, most of the sailors are sleeping on the ship again. So you wake up the next morning. Thankfully, there are glimpses of light coming through the ash clouds above, just barely filtering through. And it's still late morning before it happens, but seeing the sky just brighten a little bit, it warms your soul in a way. The rest of the crew, you can tell they are relieved, they're enthusiastic. They know that they can repair the ship. They've made it through Gwenot in these horrible conditions, and there's a chance that they're going to survive this. The worst is behind them. Now, you're not all out of the danger yet, but there is a energy as the crew begins to really work in earnest at repairing this ship. As breakfast is happening, most of the crew is having stew that was warmed up from last night, or some hard biscuits, or any sort of reserves they have. The four of you are gathering around the campfire. Likely most of you did some sort of watch the night before. The next morning, you are enjoying each other's company. And Ebba walks up to you. And you remember her as the superstitious sailor who has kind of become the de facto leader of sorts with Octa out of the picture. She's not necessarily qualified to be a shipmaster. She doesn't own the ship at all. But she seems to be the one that the crew respects the most, even if she doesn't have the most experience. And she kind of like gently approaches you. She seems almost hesitant. And then finally, she just spits it out. So the crew has taken a vote. And well, let me start with this. I'm sorry. Ship names die with their shipmaster. And that's very sad. It's very tragic. But Octa, he bought the ship from a dwarven trader. That's why it was named the Seabeard. And he never renamed it. And I believe that's why he had such poor fortune. And it wasn't that he was a bad shipmaster, but everything went wrong for him. And well, the crew, we voted, and we'd like you all to give the ship a new name. Is this something you would be willing to do?
Oh, I love naming things. That's exciting.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to happen now. Take your time, think about it. Well, the reason the crew wants you to do it is because we're really hoping that after we get out of here, I know we're not out of danger yet, but we're hoping that you will stay on with the crew. The crew, they respect me, but they are worshiping you. I mean, you've done things that they never thought were possible. You killed 2 sea serpents. You killed the Wendigo. And she looks at Gunk, can implant thoughts in people's minds. Anyways, we would all appreciate it. We would all feel more comfortable having your skills, your experience, your protection, even after we get out of this horrible situation. And I know that crew. If you treat them right, they will follow you anywhere.
Zaldrin will speak up. I do have to ask, in our departure, was there discussion of taking the ship and exiting this area?
Oh, no. We never would have. Octa, his last orders were for us to take the ship out and anchor. And he and the others, they gave their lives to give us time to launch the ship. They knew that their lives were forfeit, and his last order was that we were to wait for you. I think because he knew that you were our best chance for survival.
Can I roll an insight on that response?
Absolutely.
One success.
One success. You know Ebba fairly well, but you're not intimate with her. You've spent a good amount of time with her now. You've seen how she works. You haven't seen her be dishonest about many things. It's part of the reason why the crew respects her. She tells it as it is. That doesn't mean that you necessarily know that she's not lying right now, but you feel like she's being truthful.
Thank you. And she'll kind of step back and look at everyone else.
And Bacho will get in close and he'll sniff her hair, pull back. His fur on the back of his neck bristles a little bit, lets out a small growl. Ebba,
Yes.
we will be one crew, and perhaps one day you will run with the pack, but we will not desert you.
Thank you. Know that if you get us out of here, you'll have our loyalty forever.
What do you say, my fur brother? Gunk, you know more of these things.
You have a very brave crew. Bravery is one of the most important characteristics that we can find in allies. If you wish us to stay, then we shall stay. But...
And he's getting a little chesty.
You may, or the crew around the day-to-day running of the ship is, of course, up to you. But the decisions on where we go and what we do remains with us, the pack. Agreed?
I don't know if I can agree to that. Not because the decision shouldn't remain with you, but I'm not sure that I'm capable of running the crew. That is a responsibility I've never had before.
Really? You will balk at the idea of administration? Have you not seen what we have done here? You come to us with this being too difficult for you. You merely have to tell this one to go unfurl the sail and that one to go tie off a line.
Gunk, maybe you should experience sailor life a little bit before you judge.
Me?
Yeah, you could do it. You're good at all sorts of things.
I am sure that it's not that difficult. I've seen these folk swinging this way and that.
Why don't you prove it then? And Mirren will look at the sailor like, yeah, run him through the ropes.
I would be happy to teach you anything I know. Like I said, I've been sailing for years and years, but I've never been a shipmaster before. And I meant no disrespect. It's a large responsibility, and I didn't know if I'd be up to it.
Mirren is right. I can feel the seawater in my blood as well. Perhaps it is time we learned the craft.
I'll teach you everything I know.
I think you're going to do a great job. I mean, look, your competition is Wolford. He's been the human hanging out with us.
He has been such a nightmare. He will not stop talking. And I know he's with you, and I know he's part of your pack. And I'm sorry. I mean, no disrespect. But
absolutely none. We punch him a lot.
I can punch him? Can I punch him?
Oh, yes. Please.
That'll make things so much better.
He must be toughened up and trained how to survive and fight. In fact, all of the sailors, when they're taking breaks, should practice attacking him to see how well he handles himself.
We might want to repair the ship first, but that's something we can do once we're out of
repairing the ship first. We'll figure out the details of that.
Are you
later.
questioning?
He is our responsibility.
Bacho's authority in this?
No, I'm sorry.
You can probably just say yes and smile and nod and then ignore the bits you don't like. Sometimes we go off. But don't worry, you're going to do a great job.
Okay.
You
exactly.
Get us out of here if you can.
Yep.
And she will go and relay to the crew how the conversation went, that it seems mostly positive, that you all are willing to take them under your protection.
Listen, someone has to show them tough love, you know? You can't always be... it's fine. I will be bad constable. You be good constable. That is fine.
Okay.
No one has ever called me good constable.
Or bad constable, I would imagine.
Duh.
Not a word that's thrown around often.
No.
Bacho, there's your first day of light. You're still resting, recuperating, training. Is there anything else that you're specifically trying to do? What does this day look like for you?
No, he's just, at this point, Bacho is just trying to help out. And he wants to reconnect with every member of the pack just to make sure that he feels like himself with them and then be productive and helpful.
Give me let's just say that this is a straight empathy check, and I know that's great for you.
That's excellent. That's 2 dice for me. See how we do here. I'll take 1 audience dice. How's that?
Sure.
I got 2 6s and a 4.
Okay.
That's
You roll a 66 again.
I know I can't get away from it. It's gonna kill. It won't kill me again. No.
How would it look like when you were reconnecting with Mirren?
Bacha would come up and he would actually make himself small as he can. He would come in slow and low, and just sit at her side and just watch her work, probably making breakfast or working on something, and then in just a very low growl, Mirren, what is it that I can do to help you, sister?
Bacho, you are doing really great. You helped me so much yesterday fix all these weapons for the pack. That saved me so many hours of work. I think you're doing a really good job. I'm so happy you're still here. And I was really scared the other day. And I think you should be more careful in the future. Okay?
I will try. When you look at me, when you look in my eyes, do you still see me?
Yes, you're warm, but it just means your heart is beating extra hard, and maybe you're going to feel a little bit more these days.
Mm-hmm. And he picks up just a big fistful of snow and he presses it against his chest, and it just, of course, melts down into water almost immediately. He's like, all right, if I ever don't seem right to you, you'll tell me. You'll know. You know these things.
I do. Yes, yeah, I've dealt with that a little bit before. And she'll kind of like look over her shoulder to a shadow that's a little bit too dark. Yeah, I'll help. I can keep an eye.
My mind has been drifting at points in the last day to a bright feasting hall filled with a great fang of Wolfkin.
As Bacho is describing this, Mirren, you can respond as normal, but you see that Bacho, he kind of drifts off, and it looks as if he's going to a different place mentally.
Mirren will kind of like reach up and put both her hands on either side of his face and tilt him back to looking towards her. It's probably a future that you're meant to find. It sounds like it's you're a great Wolfkin too. It's where you're supposed to be someday, but now you're here with us, right?
Bacho, as she says this to you, you look down and you're still aware, you're still conscious of what's happening. That shadow that she kind of like alluded to, you see in that shadow the same woman who was watching you before, who's been watching you in this feasting hall. And you look down at Mirren, and her eyes, they don't go black, but they immediately fill with tears. They're water, and it's just gushing down constantly, like streams and streams of water out of each eye. And she's smiling, she's talking to you. And then her head just kind of like tilts back and back and back further until it falls off her shoulders and it rolls onto the ground. And she's still speaking these words to you, and those tears are just falling down, making a puddle in the ice and snow underneath.
The fur on Bacho's shoulders just ruffles up, and he takes one giant step back, almost a leap, and goes into a crouch. And his nose is low, his lips are back, his ears are back flat, and he growls.
And because you got that successful empathy, as soon as you take that step back and you growl and you start to regain your thoughts, that's when you snap out of it and you see that Mirren is just standing there the way she was. Her head is perfectly fine. There's no one in the shadows.
He buries his face down in the snow to try to feel the cold again. And then he looks up at Mirren. I'm sorry, sister.
It's okay. Sometimes you just have to keep running.
Perhaps you're right.
And sometimes that's the life we live to avoid those shadows behind us.
If you watch for my shadows, I'll watch for yours.
It's a deal. And she'll spit into her hand and hold it out to Bacho.
Puts a giant paw out.
And Bacho, you can't feel cold as well. You can still tell when it's cold, but you can't feel it as well. But there's something strangely reassuring about the spit in the hand, the warmth of it. That as you reach out and you shake, you can feel that life that was in that bond. Zaldrun, what does this day look like for you? Is there anything else you're training? How are you spending your time recovering?
I would say Zaldrun is just sort of going out and scouting. She kind of did all of her training yesterday. She would have found Wolford yesterday around dinner time while he was eating. She would have come up and slapped him kind of on the back as he's having some stew. Like, gotcha.
So you're spending your time scouting, likely creating a perimeter as well, because you can actually see now. You can actually range around and not feel claustrophobic from the darkness closing in. You can see across the tundra, and it's barren. You see that there are mountains and hills in the distance. The wind is still blowing harshly. The cold is so bitter and strong, but just having that little bit of light, the little bit of gloom that there is lighting up this day is just invigorating. And as you're ranging about, I would like a scouting roll from you.
Two successes.
The first thing you see is that there are seagulls. You're further inland because you're doing a perimeter, but seeing seagulls is the first sign of light that most people see after the week of Gwenot. They're scavengers. They come out of hiding and they start looking for anything that died during the past week to start feeding and recovering their strength after this week. You don't spend too much time on them, but as you get further, you see a mass of darkness on the tundra. And with those successes, you look closer and you realize that there are a herd of reindeer. So with that, you think maybe there's food. You start stalking a little bit closer. And as you're getting closer and closer to these reindeer, they don't seem to pick up on you. The wind is blowing the opposite direction. They're not picking your scent. There's no real place to hide, but you are trudging through the snow. It's almost up to your waist, so it's not that difficult to really blend in. There is another one of these quakes, very similar to what you were feeling very similar to what cracked open the earth and caused you and Mirren to fall down into that cavern. I want a move check to stay on your feet.
I've pushed no one down any holes.
Mirren fell down both holes, so I think that makes her guilty.
One success.
So this shake is violent, and it really does threaten to just throw you down to the ground. These are quakes that you've never really felt before in your lifetime. And in Oracoa, there are quakes all the time. It's a volcano. There's constant shifting of the earth. This one just strikes so hard, and you fall down into the snow, flatten yourself, and it just keeps going and going till it finally stops. You don't see that there have been any more cracks in the earth, but there is something happening in this vicinity that it's not natural.
I forgot to mention that she would have had Ven with her while she was out scouting. And so she's like trained Ven how to like kind of lay down, and she's just I'm sorry, girl. I don't know what these are, but I think perhaps we go back. Maybe we go underground again and try to see what is going on. So she'll kind of get on Ven's back to ride.
When you mention underground, you and Ven have such a bond that she kind of gives you some side eye, as if she understood exactly what you meant and she's not happy about it. And you know Ven would never actually disobey you or anything like that, but she'll let you know when she doesn't like the idea. And that's the sense you're getting right now.
Oh, I always look out for you, don't I? I understand. It was not a great place. There's lots of falling happened. But we are brave. We should investigate. It'll be okay.
And when you say we are brave, that just kind of enheartens her a bit. She appreciates the compliment. She's like, yeah, I am brave. And she lifts her head back. She gives her mane a little shake, and she continues scouting out with you. Go ahead and give me a survival check to see if you actually can catch one of these reindeer. Do you want to push?
So 0 successes and 2 ones. To my wits, but we need to eat, and Mirren would be happy. Hey, 1 success, 2 damage to wits.
All right. So the earthquake scattered most of the herd. And for a bit, you were very concerned that you wouldn't be able to find any more, or that they were just running too far away for you to catch up with them. But as we're heading towards where the herd was, and it's not hard to track because they're just plowing through the snow. They're leaving wide tracks from their massive weight, just creating trails in the snow. You find that there was one that actually was injured by this quake. It looks as if it sprained a leg, or it broke a bone of some sorts, and you can hear it whining in the distance. You get up there and you realize that it's just not going to make it anyways, and it would be the humane thing to do to actually put it out of its misery, and you needed the meat anyways. So you're able to put it down, tie it up to Ven, and drag it back to camp. And with Mirren cooking it up the rest of the day, let's give you all an extra die to your food.
Mirren, I know if you have stretched our provisions for as long as you could stretch them. I thought perhaps you might need some fresh meat.
Oh, Zaldrin, it's a whole. Thank you so much. I'm sure we can actually cure it, and we can make some like jerky and also a stew, and we can have a roast tonight, and maybe some stuffing.
You
And
see,
she'll sort of go off.
Bacho reaches his hand in and pulls out its liver and just pops it into his mouth and starts chewing as he walks by.
Wait, that would have been pate.
You hear a bit of sizzle
Mirren.
as it hits his mouth too.
It's okay. It's healthy. The liver is full of good nutrients.
Mirren, what does this day look like for you?
Gunk, where did you go? I need you. Gunk, stop playing with your dead things. No, Gunk, come back. I know you're around here. Mirren is like running around looking for Gunk. Gunk. Eventually,
What?
hopefully.
Yes. What is it, Mirren? What can...
Oh, Gunk, there you are. So you know how you're really good at packing things into your backpack?
Yes, I
And you're really good at hiding?
yes, these not good
Those
enough,
things.
but yeah.
I need to learn that. Both.
Okay. You want me to teach you how to pack things properly?
Yes.
Okay, and how to hide better
Yes.
than you have been hiding.
All my
lately.
pots and pans are like still in the snow, so we can collect those and put them back so people can't just take them out again.
Right. Well, see, the trick to packing things is to just, well, first you have to make sure that it's all about spatial relations, you'll see, and understanding, the proper packing procedures. Because certain things are, are big and heavy, and other things are smaller and light and fragile, and it's about a layering system.
And then about 7 hours go by as Gunk is instructing Mirren on how to properly pack things. And you see a montage of Mirren packing something, showing it to Gunk, and Gunk shaking his head, no, get back to it. That is not good enough. Over and over and over again. Until finally, late at night, Mirren comes and
like this?
And then he just leans back and claps.
Congratulations.
So it takes 7 hours to teach her how to pack.
Like 20 minutes to do the stealth thing, no problem.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah, just duck a little bit. You're really short. Just stay low to the ground. It's really not
okay.
hard. I don't know why it's so
that's
difficult.
great.
It'd be much more difficult for Zaldrin. She's like a giant tree. It's like trying to hide a tree in the middle of a tundra.
The quality of the shadow is something I sometimes have trouble seeing.
Right. You really have to embrace the shadows, the darkness. You must become the darkness.
Sometimes Isla is there, though.
Oh, well, that, right. You really probably should address this at some point.
That is something I had a dream when we all had those nightmares. I wanted to talk to you about, because I thought you know a lot about lore and you read a lot, and I just kind of know a lot of stories. But maybe she said, who spoke of penance to be paid before the mother and father? Who's the mother and father?
Game Master, would Gunk be able to roll something for this?
No, this would be common knowledge.
Okay.
The mother is Malin, who you refer to as the Earth Mother.
Yeah.
She is the creator of the Earth, and she gave birth to the Kadarin, the six main gods. The father is Maelor, her brother husband. He is the arbiter of justice, and he is the one that actually killed Brita. He chopped off her head in penance for her supposedly attacking Gwenael.
And so Gunk will not necessarily use those terms because he'll be like, the mother is clearly the Earth Mother, the father.
Okay.
Probably the Iron Father, I would imagine. The humans, you furthest folk, have different names for them. Your obsession with naming things and subscribing ownership of them. But, whatever.
Yeah, I think Malin and Maelor was who my granny and grandpa used to say. And where would it go to pay a tribute at their feet? Where would that be?
Game Master, is that to the west, I think?
That would be, I can ping it on your map.
I think there's an island.
There is a rock formation that looks very similar to a man and a woman seated. And it's a crude rock formation, so you can't necessarily say that it was carved, but the legends say that there was a great crafter that was equal almost to the gods themselves. And the gods commissioned her to create these two statues representing the mother and the father. And the crafter knew that to carve them was a great honor, and the statues must have no other equal. So she chose to use an entire mountain as their base. And she spent her entire life working on these statues, toiling for years and years. And when the last piece was carved, the now old and feeble crafter looked up to these statues at their feet, but for a moment before falling dead.
And he'll be explaining that story, but then where could you ping it again? I didn't have the map up. I'm trying to. Okay.
Oh,
got it.
Top left.
The top left there.
I see it. Yeah. Sorry, I was zoomed in for the stream.
Viewers, we have a link to a wiki that has this map for you, and it is on there, so you can see it as well. There we go. Thank you, Melissa.
I just switched over to the map so they can see it as well.
Inside the north, the fangs of war.
What a beautiful man. Thank you.
Beyond the Forest of Ash, there is, and I'll just kind of go through it here and there.
Hmm. Oh, okay. I guess bucket list. Maybe after we go beat up that elf.
We can go ahead. I have no other plans. We could do this, yes. I have been wanted to travel north once more. I am sure the others would be more than happy to go there with you.
You could go say hi to your Earth Mother, like literally.
We speak every day.
Okay. Thanks, Gunk. You can go back to playing with your dead things now.
Playing? You called it?
Yeah.
Playing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I saw them twitching. Like, it's a good job.
And so he's probably got, because you said there's like, we're starting to see animals again. He's probably been practicing just draining the life out of stuff. Like just,
Okay, I can help. How much can I drain before it? Oh, okay, that is too much. Okay. Oh, now it is feeble. That is perfect. Can I put it back now? And then, no, definitely can't put it back. I suppose I should be careful when I use this. Okay. Don't get too close to me, by the way, Mirren, when I'm doing this. There's a radius around me you do not want to be in.
And he just points, and you see that a variety of circles, but there's just like dead animals in a perfect circle and like, things here and there. Like, don't get close. Seriously.
Okay. I
kind of feel a little bad. I freaked out Wolford, but he sort of deserved it. But
he was trying to eat stew too early.
And he never brought me my bowl. Can you believe that?
I was wondering why you didn't get any food yesterday. Like, I had it all ready for you.
It's okay. I took a seagull out of the sky and I ate it. The sailors got very upset when I did this. They said something about bad luck. And I said, there is no luck. There's only what we do.
Well, we might need to pretend to leave the seagulls alone while we're around them.
I don't want to eat the seagull. I would prefer the stew, but
the stew was so moist and tender.
By the time I got to it was all gone. No one saved anything for me. It's been like this my whole life.
I don't know when to cut you guys off because I love the banter so much.
We're just gonna keep going until you do.
We will. We'll come up with something else.
But I know you're waiting on me to say something, but at the same time, I'm enjoying watching. All right, Gunk, was there anything else you wanted to do throughout the day? You were killing poor animals in a circle. Mirren is constantly moving back and forth.
I was performing scientific testing. Okay, that's what I was doing. My experiments have expanded to the animal testing stage. It's gone to proper approval.
You're real.
He was dared, goaded, one might say, by his friend Mirren into learning to be a sailor. And see, this is the thing. Gunk has been swimming since a very young pup, as we've spoken about tonight. And there have been many times over the past several weeks and months of traveling with the pack where his prowess in the water has come to fore, leading everybody on the ship through Gwenat, saving some folk when we were deep within, beneath that ruined tower. And the tentacle monster, and he was just swimming while dragging. So he's not intimidated by these sailors. So he will take his with half a seagull sticking out of his mouth. He will walk up to the sailors and then I feel it is time. 1 second, I have a feather. Okay, I feel it is time that you should show me how the ship properly works. If I am going to lead this rabble, I shall like to know how it works.
You spit out the seagull and a couple feathers, like drift in the air, taken by the wind.
Beak. I got the beak. You ever get the beak like up into the roof of your mouth? It is so, and then it's just painful for like 3 days.
And you're just talking to a sailor who is like caulking boards in the ship, and he's looking down at you. What is this Skraeling doing? But Emma soon comes to rescue this poor sailor who is terrified of you. And she begins showing you around the ship, and there really isn't much on deck that you haven't experienced before. You've spent quite a bit of time on ships, so you understand how the sails work, how the rudder works, how steering works, even navigating, because you helped do that so much previously. So what you're learning more is about how to repair the ship, maintaining the ship, especially like how you caulk the boards and how they have to be carved at just the right angle to create the right space for the moss to be pounded in. How the ballast is, it's just a pile of stones in the center of the ship, but it still has to be distributed properly, and the type of stone matters because some stones are heavier than other stones, and then it can create the ship off, it can make the ship be off balance, things like that. And you also learn quite a bit about the superstitions that Ebba has about sailing.
Oh, here we go.
With every bit of information about repairing, there is some sort of superstition that justifies it in her mind. And this seems to be something that's completely agreed upon by all the sailors. So as she'll tell you something, there will be a couple sailors that nod their head and give their 2 cents in how they agree with it. You hear a lot of stories about how they have a cousin who his ship sank because they didn't do this, these kind of things. It's always, I know someone who knew someone of that sort. But there is an
really
endless list of superstitions that you need to learn before you can become a true sailor.
Right. Okay. That sounds good. That's great. Like it. Good. Good job, everybody. Good job. What are we talking about?
We're talking about how when you build a new ship, you need a virgin to pee on the ballast in order for it to sail north. Otherwise, it can only sail south.
Right. What is ballast again?
That's the rocks in the bottom. We've talked about this. And the rocks, there are different types of rocks. There are like sea stones that are very smooth. And then there are stones that you get from the mountain that are kind of rocky. And those can flake. They're not as dense. The sea stones have been worn round by the water. And you don't want to get those hot because they'll explode.
Right. And so why do you put rocks in the boat? Again, isn't that going to just make it sink? You're not very good sailors.
Okay, so there's this strange thing about physics called displacement, and you create a ship that's wide enough that it displaces the water and the water pushes it up, but it doesn't create balance. So you have to have this ballast, the rocks in the center of the ship so that it doesn't rock too much. Right. It's math. I'll show it to you. And Emma starts like
one of those like 3-cornered hats or something I could wear. What is it? I can't remember. What's it called again?
I have a helm. Do you want a helm?
I don't really want a helm. Anyone can get the helm. The big ones with the 3. It's like a triangle.
Yeah, I really don't know.
Oh, okay. I thought you were a sailor.
It's probably, you know what? I have heard of those, and it's actually bad luck to wear them because they attract reavers.
I don't believe in luck, so it is.
Well, I'm just saying it could save your life.
Right.
Take the information with what you will.
Right, gotcha. Okay, so I'm good to go, right? I can just we go here.
Yeah. I'll teach you more as we're sailing. Once we're ready to go, it should only be a few more days. I think we're making good progress.
Yeah, no, for sure. It looks great. Like, I love what you've done. Like over there. What side of the boat is that again? Is that the?
I know it's not going to be perfect. We're using a shipwreck to repair our ship. It's not going to be amazing, but once we get to a harbor, we'll be able to pull it out and we'll be able to really repair it.
Why do you call it starboard? Why do you just call it like the left side?
Actually, starboard is the star comes from the word steer, and the rudder is on the right side of the ship.
Boy,
so that's the board where like you dock. The steer board, on the right side of the ship.
Okay, well, that was great. Okay, so yeah, you just keep doing what you're doing,
and we call the left one port. Because the guy who decided it just really likes wine.
Okay, I can get behind that reasoning. That's good. I like that one. I'll remember that one. Okay, well, I'm just going to go out the back of the ship now, so I will see you later, right?
Yes, and you disengage from this. You had your training. You didn't necessarily like it, but you did go through it.
You can sail a ship now?
Oh, totally. Gang's got this. It's all up here. Mind like a steel trap, this kid. Come
And we are moving into our second day of Bendal of the month of Landvar. So we're in a new month. We're in a new week. The weather is getting warmer. It's still very cold. It's going to take some time before the world heats up again. After a week of darkness, it takes multiple days to really pull out of that stormy weather. But it's getting there. And you're past the worst of it. And I believe you all had decided that you wanted to go back to those ice caverns, correct?
That is correct.
Yes.
All right. So if there's nothing else you want to do to prepare for that, you all can have geared up the night before to head out early the next morning. Are Ven and Cloud going with?
Be happy to leave them.
Zaldrin will have recognized Ven's reticence and left her in charge of Cloud.
And Wolford has also come forward saying, these people, they're not always that trustworthy. So I'll stay here and I'll keep them in line. And you know what? I'll make sure that Ven gets the perfect braids, just the way you like them.
You do such a good job with her braids. I very much appreciate that.
Yes, I've never delegated it out to anyone else. Never.
Well, at the end of the day, as long as Ven has wonderful braids, that is what is important.
Exactly. We have such a bond now, Zaldrin, you and I. It's going to be you and I to the end, because I protect you and you protect me.
We will see you when we get back.
And with that, the four of you set out towards these ice caverns. It's not too far away, but I still want to lead the way roll.
I can do that. I get a +1 with my Pathfinder talent.
And not just a +1, but you get a +1 from Mirren's map because she so dutifully scribbled on that paper with Zaldrin as her drafting board. And we're going to roll this into actually navigating the caverns as well. So you get another +1 because Gunk left coins throughout those caverns.
Okay. All right. We hopefully will do well. There's a whole army full of dice in my hands. Well, I got 2 successes. And I'm not going to push it because I would take 3 points of wits damage. So it's just the 2 successes.
Wits damage has never caused you trouble before, though.
Horrible roll.
2 successes is plenty. This is binary. You just needed 1.
Okay.
So with 2, you're actually getting there a little bit faster. It doesn't take long to find the cave entrance. You remember where it's been. You knew that it was very close to the shipwreck as well. And Gunk, just recently, you saw the owl heading directly towards it. Especially with the light of the day coming in. Yeah,
which I think Gunk will tell everyone about as we're traveling. Like he's like, now that we're away from camp and like the regular sailors aren't around, like he has no problem telling the rest of the pack about it. About the vision he saw when he was studying. As he was looking at the tablets once more. Because he's probably talked a little bit about it here and there, but not like obsessively. And then he will kind of say, there is something. I saw a vision of an owl. A skeletal owl. They are very strange without fur and feathers and whatnot. But it traveled off in this direction, almost as if it was trying to tell me that I should come here. Is that not curious?
Like when you followed the crow raven to the wolf to the snake lake?
Yes. Do you think it is the Earth Mother that is directing me?
I think the Earth Mother would have chosen a living one, but otherwise, yes.
Maybe she's branching out a bit. I don't know.
Are the bones of the animals not interred within the Earth Mother?
That's a good point.
That is very true, Bacho. Very true. Absolutely.
And that right there is like clicks for Gunk. Absolutely. It didn't take much to convince him. And so he is certain that this was a message from the Earth Mother.
Yes,
regardless,
Bacho from anyone else.
Regardless, Bacho pulls out his longsword. At this point, it's like, I'm
And you
sure it will
begin
be fun.
delving into these ice caverns. It's easier going without the horses. You can move a bit faster because you don't have to guide them the correct way. You don't have to watch where they're stepping. It is difficult ground to cover, but it's not impossible, especially moving lighter. You don't find anything that seems to have disturbed these coins, especially with the map. Mirren, you seem to have taken fairly good notes. It's not hard to follow behind. I am going to need at least one roll for torches from someone. Probably not Mirren because she's holding a map. So who wants to do that? Bacho.
Crap on a stick.
All right. So you are burning through torches here. They just don't last as long as you wish they would, especially with the cold air around them. They tend to burn out faster. There's one or two times where a flow of ice just cracks, and then snow and melted water just falls down, and it douses the torch, and it makes you wet a little bit. You don't have a problem with the cold anymore. You have the wet fur, you're surrounded by ice, and you're going perfectly fine. It's probably very concerning to the rest of you. Not necessarily like an evil way, but it's definitely odd. You continue through these tunnels, and it takes a good quarter day to get back to where you were. You find the spider nest where these webs were frozen over. There were quite a few trapdoor spiders and things like that, but you cleared it out before, and it doesn't seem as if any spiders have come back again. And you are faced with this tunnel that goes down at about a 35-degree angle into the ground. There's a matching tunnel directly above, and it has these circular grooves that spiral around as if it was drilled, but you can see just 20, 30 feet down, it starts to curve and it levels out. And there's a pile of refuse and trash that has fallen through these spider webs. And Gunk and Mirren, you've seen this quite closely as you fell into it. How do you guys want to approach this?
We tied a rope up above somewhere, or were we using Zaldrin to pull us up last time?
Last time you had a rope tied to Zaldrin. This isn't a difficult climb down with these grooves, and it does start to curve. It's already at an angle, so you don't necessarily need a rope, but a rope would help.
I can go down first and take the rope with me.
I think we want the opposite of that.
She's down to one wits at the moment.
I appreciate your offer, Zaldrin, but actually, and Mirren will look around for something to tie the rope to that would be stable.
Zaldrin, you did get to rest the night before, so that could be important as well.
Okay, thank you.
I don't want you to die from cold damage because we're out of artifacts that would revive you.
Can I roll, I guess, survival to see if I can find something to tie to?
Let's make it a move check. We'll make it a group move check, and we'll give it a +1 because you have a rope. So one person, most likely Bacho or Zaldrin, but it can be anyone, will be holding the rope or have it tied off while the rest of the group goes down, and then they can untie the rope and go down on their own.
And hold it for you.
From the top, not from the bottom.
Sure, whatever you say.
All right, Zaldrin, give us the move check +1.
One success.
All right, and that is plenty. You move slowly and carefully. Likely with our marching order, Bacho goes first, and then Gunk, and then Mirren. And then Zaldrin, you unwrap the rope from around yourself, coil it back up, and very carefully you climb down. It's even easier for Bacho and Zaldrin because you're taller. You can hold on to the grooves a little bit easier. The grooves are about 5 or 6 feet in length. So Mirren and Gunk would have a bit more difficulty, but it's still not impossible. It helps having those there. You make it down to where the tunnel begins to level out. And again, it's just a perfect cylinder that just goes off into the darkness. And last time you were here, Bacho caught a glimpse of a reflection from the torch here. And he couldn't quite see what it was. It looked as if it reflected off something metal, maybe. It was very hard to see. Holding the torch now, you don't see that necessarily yet. You're at the pile of refuse. You can hold the torch up. It doesn't seem like there's a reflection. It's very hard to tell, though. So how would you guys like to go about moving through this tunnel?
Mirren would like to have her bow out at this point.
Bacho would go first. I mean, he would stay in the front and be slowly making his way down, long sword in one hand, torch in his left hand.
And are we good with the normal marching order? Bacho, Gunk, Zaldrin, Mirren? Okay. So Bacho has sword in one hand, torch in the other. The rest of you are following dutifully. Gunk, you're kind of off to the side so you can see through the darkness. Looking up ahead, you see before anyone through the darkness that it appears as if this tunnel ends or it branches. Like you see a wall in front of you, a distance after where the tunnel seems to end. Maybe like there's another cavern that crosses it. It looks like you can go left or right at sort of angles. Bacho, just about after he notices that, and he probably tells the rest of you, you do catch a glimpse of a reflection. It's not a glimpse anymore the way it was last time, where it was just brief, momentary. It lasts a little longer, and you realize that it's not necessarily the reflection of like metal, but as if it's reflecting off water or oil. It has a like sheen to it. As you continue moving closer, you see that there is an opening, like Gunk saw, and the wall in front of you seems to have some sort of like oil or mucus dripping down from it. You're still a good, 40 feet away, about where this torch can really light it up and you can really see. The wall appears to have a sort of texture to it, as if there are lines that crisscross around it, almost like folds of skin.
Mirren, let me light one of your arrows and fire it into that wall. There's something not right with it.
Yeah, sure. Here, we can just tie something, and I'll give it a go. And
you quickly rig one of your arrows. I'm not going to ask you to roll for it because you're just shooting straight. It's not going to be hard for any one of your skill. So you wrap a rag around it, light it with the torch. It doesn't have to go very far, just about 40 feet or so without losing the flame. And it flies true. And it flies directly ahead, and it lodges in that wall, which if it was ice, it likely would have bounced back. It's not likely that it would have penetrated deep enough to really hold that arrow. But something in this was softer and has a little bit of give. And you get a better glimpse of it with that light there. It's brown, reddish brown, like an irony type color. And again, that texture, it looks like skin of sorts, but it's much bigger scale. However, shooting the arrow into it didn't have any sort of response.
I think we just did acupuncture, but I'm not comfortable going to get the arrow.
Is there anything Gunk can roll? Gunk has had some weird experiences in his past with various subterranean creatures and things like that. Is there anything?
Yeah, I'll give you a lore check, and actually +1 because you might know something about this.
Okay. +1. All right. Three successes. 3 6s.
3 6s. All right. You're racking your brain. You're thinking about the various creatures that invaded your warren that left very traumatic memories. It's not like that. You go through all these things that it could be, and you're going through your past, everything you've learned, everything you've seen. But it's a much more recent memory that actually sticks out to you. You recall that moment when you first learned death magic from these Ashkesh tablets. You had a vision where you were just in a void swimming as fast as you could, and you were swallowed by this massive skaden, this massive worm. And the texture of this creature looks extremely similar.
And okay, if that's the case, then Gunk will mutter the word skated under his breath. I don't know if he ever told anyone. I don't know if we ever played out him telling people about that, but he will give the cliff notes right now.
Like when I first read into the tablets, I was gifted a vision. I see, I was beneath the sea, and one of these skating creatures larger than any we have seen. That is what I saw. Or at least, it looks very much like it.
Is this one going to swallow us like your dream, or is this one stuck and frozen in the ice? Please?
Is there any way to determine that, Stephen?
We're going to use DM Fiat here. As soon as Mirren says, is this going to swallow us or is it stuck in the ice? You see that the skin ripples a bit and this creature begins to shift ever so slightly. The arrow begins to lurch forward and a quake rushes through this tunnel, threatening to send you all to the ground. I want move checks from everyone.
Do
Told
we
Ven
have?
yes, we do.
Okay, I'm gonna take one.
Don't worry too much about this. You're not going to take damage. It's just going to knock you prone. All right. So anyone who fails, you fall and you hit the ice hard. It's not enough to hurt, but you can feel this vibration moving through the tunnels. Zaldrin, you felt this just yesterday. This same sort of vibration. It was enough to knock you off then. This creature is shifting. It's the slightest shift. You can tell from the light that the arrow hasn't moved much further out of your sight, but that little bit of shift on a creature of this size had massive ripples throughout this glacier.
I told Ven just yesterday that what we're feeling is nothing like any quake I've ever felt before. And that's because it is not a quake. It is this creature moving, right?
It appears to be that way, but it is not moving towards us yet.
With your 3 lore successes as well, I'm going to give you something else. Last session, or the session before, I can't remember, when you were in these caverns, you remembered something about world worms, that they were likely the ones that burrowed through the glaciers, created these tunnels, sort of parasites of the earth. You're making the connection that this creature is likely one of these world worms that's never been seen before. Bacho, you've seen tunnels that are like this before up north in the tundras, but you've never actually seen a creature that makes one like this. So you're starting to question whether the Skaden and these world worms are the same, and if they are, the implications that means the Skaden have been here thousands of years prior. There's so many questions that launches into that your knowledge just does not cover.
So Gunk will just utter the word world worms. Like that is this is one of these creatures. We have seen it.
And he'll get kind of excited at that point, actually.
And I think the story of world worms is something that Mirren definitely would have heard as well. It's a very popular folklore story. Zaldrin, you can decide if you've heard that or not.
I've never heard of this before, but I think perhaps we should stop shooting arrows at it.
I'm the only one that fell out. Okay, I'm gonna stand up now.
Oh gosh, what happened? You're so short. I didn't even notice you'd fallen. What?
Always with the short jokes, Sultan.
Hey, I'm pretty sure I just got called a tree trunk earlier today. So
that was a compliment.
It's okay.
Great.
It's
Double standard.
Oh, they called a figure down. We'll figure it out.
All
Well,
right. What are you
I
doing?
think if we if it's sort of the movement of the arrow, it was just a few feet or a few meters, or
you can still see a bit of the flame. It's dying out because the arrow wouldn't last that long with the rags, but you can still see the light. So it didn't move that far. Yeah, likely a few meters.
Well, if it's a world worm and it's stuck in here, and maybe they're skating, then maybe they eat the world, but also it's kind of waking up. So now would be the opportunity to kill it if we're going to, or we could just run away.
So how big? I'm trying to remember from Gunk's memory. Like this thing was how big would we estimate this thing to be?
From what you're seeing, it appears as if maybe it's coiled, or at least in a bend in a tunnel. And it's hard to imagine the actual scale from just what you're seeing here, but you're thinking with the way that texture is, with the way the tunnel is sized, with how long you've seen Skaden can be, they can be quite long and thin, that when it's coiled like this, it could be the size of a small mountain for all you know. It's really impossible to gauge, but it's large.
Is it so large that it seems ridiculous to think that we could kill it even in its somewhat hibernating state?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, if you were going to try to actually kill this thing, it would be like, it would require dropping a mountain on top of it.
Yeah.
Or, even if you were trying to cut your way out from the inside, it would take an entire crew of people working for at least a day to get through this.
Right. So yeah, Gunk would I think this is beyond our capabilities.
No, can't just shoot it a few more times.
No, we simply must bypass it. Let it be.
Okay.
Quietly. Moves are quiet now. Careful footsteps.
I learned that.
Do not fall down.
I can't do that.
Do not push people off of cliffs and into holes.
I never pushed anyone.
All right, so the group of you move forward and you get closer to this creature, and you can see that there is a sort of slime or oil that covers the skin. It's not necessarily dripping or oozing, just something that seems to exude from the skin. And you realize that this tunnel, this cave that you're in, you look up and your torch doesn't light it up the entire way. Gunk, you might be able to see just barely the roof of this thing with your dark vision, but it's 100 feet up there at least. And you start looking and you see that you can go right or left, and it is a large circle that goes around this creature. And it's almost like an ice cream cone, how there are layers of this cylinder that have been carved out. And it has the grooves very similar to the tunnel you've been in. It looks as if this creature was in the tunnel and it just began spiraling and curling up. And then it just created a space for itself. You want to head left or right? It's not going to make a huge difference.
Let's go right.
Right. Okay. You begin heading right, and you're following alongside the skin of this creature and the ice. There's probably about a 10-foot gap. It's not a huge gap, but it's enough that you're walking comfortably. The ground underneath you has that same sort of grooves in it, but they've been worn smoother, as if this creature that's been coiling for a millennia, who knows? It could be 10 years, could be 1,000 years. Either way, the massive weight of it has made it much more smooth. So it's easier to walk than it was to climb down or move through that tunnel. You begin circling around, and it takes a long amount of time to really circle this creature. It really is walking around a very large hill. It's comparable to the city of Terran, walking around the perimeter of that entire walled city. You don't find anything really of note geographically. You don't find any sort of tunnels that branch off. The creature thankfully does not seem to shift anymore while you're in here. Moving, it doesn't seem as if it would even notice you. You still want to be careful. You're still nervous because if this thing thrashes, you'd be gone in an instant. But on the other hand, You feel like the sheer scale of this thing, you would be a nap to it. It wouldn't even notice. You could stab it with the sword and it probably wouldn't even wake up. You continue on around and you go through around the vast majority of this creature, probably 3/4. Just by counting your steps, you know you've gone a long way. And you're about to come back to the tunnel that you entered from. And the only thing that seems to be of note is that there's actually a groove moving underneath this creature. It comes from one side of the tunnel, goes through the ground in front of you, and then under the creature. And there is just a small stream of water that appears to have melted some of this ice and carved a channel underneath there. The stream, it wouldn't be very deep. It's probably about 4 or 5 feet down where the water actually begins, this channel. And then the stream itself looks as if it's another 2 to 3 feet deep. If you want to cross it, it'd be like a 5-foot jump or so.
I can make jump with rope.
I think that would be necessary because I don't know that my sure-footedness has done me very well in the last few days.
If I go across with rope, you can climb on rope, right? I go
Yes.
first?
I think you should, yes.
If you want.
Give me a move check for Zaldrun then.
You dear. That is 0 successes and 2. I'm going to push.
It's not going to be a big fall if you fall.
Oh, damn.
Ooh.
That's no successes and 2.
So Zaldrun goes to make this jump, and the ice is slick. And you just have the timing slightly off, and your foot just doesn't get the right traction that you need. Let me roll. It's only going to be 1 die for the fall damage, and I did roll a 6 though. So you're taking 1 strength damage as you jump and you hit the other side of this channel hard, and it just kind of like cracks into your ribs, and then you fall down into this water. It's ice cold, refreshingly clean and clear, but chilling to the bone. And I want an endurance check to not get cold here.
Oh, not this again. Grab an audience. 2 successes. There, I get
Nice.
successes.
2
Nice.
successes. So you have these great furs on. You have plenty of layers, and despite hitting the other side hard, you still pull yourself back quick enough that you are only drenched momentarily. You're back on your feet. You can see the others next to you. Your head is about eye level to their feet, so you can see just over this channel. But while you're down here, you can see that this tunnel actually leads a good ways underneath this creature as well.
I'm okay, sort of.
I'm
It's
so
more that way.
Oh, okay. I would like to point out I was not involved in this fall. Thank you.
Didn't you just tell her to go first? You talked
I
her
was
into it
not
this time.
involved in this fall.
Botch will drop down into the tunnel since the cold doesn't bother him anymore, and he'll go, I can lead the way and see what is down this tunnel.
I
You could
appreciate
melt
how,
us a whole new tunnel.
yeah, you can just kind of let go of the cold.
You can belly flop down and just go and melt a new pathway for us.
Bacho cocks his head like a confused dog for a moment.
Not saying
And
you
then-
have to, just thinking this is something you can now do. It is a new skill.
Then he lays on his belly and slaloms down.
And Bacho begins leading the way through this channel. Mirren and Gunk, if you're supported by Zaldrun here, you're not going to get too deep in the water. So it'll be easier for you not to get cold. You don't necessarily have to make those endurance checks unless you want to go on your own motion, in which case it'll be up to your chest.
Zaldrin, do you mind if I get a piggyback ride again?
No, not at all. But you have to get from there to here on the rope that I'm holding up in the air.
Okay, I'll try.
Could I see that spear, please?
The long spear?
The one I broke before. I won't break it. It was one time.
I just
Come
fixed
on.
that.
Here
I
it is.
just fixed it.
Here it is.
And Gunk will try to like stilt walk like with his deceptively ripped arms and just try to use his staff and the spear to stilt walk above it because he desperately does not want to go in the cold.
All right. It's fluff, so it doesn't matter. I'm not going to make you roll a check for it because you could easily be carried either way. So the four of you begin moving through this channel with Gunk stilting through, Bacho belly sliding, and Zaldrin giving Mirren a piggyback. You have this creature above you for a long time, probably 100 feet or so. And you can see that there are multiple coils of this creature within itself, like a snake curled up in its nest. You never see a head of this creature. Wherever it is, it like is folded in on itself or it's up above you. You don't see an end on either side. You continue through this channel, and then you finally get to an opening where you are inside the middle of this coil. Gunk, looking up, you can't see the ceiling above you anymore, but you can see that this creature continues up above in multiple layers. And it's rather smooth in here as well, leveled out by this creature. But this channel continues moving forward. And you can see that the water pushes forward until it drops into a waterfall. Bacho, you're the first one to go. So as you follow this channel, whether you get out of the water or not at this point, because there's space to move again once you're through this creature, you look down where the waterfall happens, and it's another one of those 20-foot grooves, circular down. The water is going down, and it doesn't spray. It doesn't foam out the way you would expect a waterfall to. It doesn't become that mist, and it just stays in that solid stream and just drips down this tunnel. And at the bottom of the tunnel, probably 20, 30 foot down, you are holding your torch and you see two rectangular stone doors that look as if they would fold into the ground.
Gunk, what do you make of this?
Does it look anything like the very first place we went when the campaign started and we were descending down?
It looks
we fought that
very
bear.
similar. Yes.
The
same sort of stone architecture.
Yeah, it is just like when we first began this adventure. There must be something very, very powerful, very valuable inside. I say we enter and see what we find.
I'm with you, Pack Brother.
If we go down the hole, how are we getting back out again?
We can climb, can't we?
Okay, well, I hope so.
We can use a baton and drive it in up here. And tie the rope to it.
That sounds good. I like that better than Gunk's plan.
So as you prepare to climb down, you start looking for a baton, you start looking for a mallet. Zaldrin, you have the rope. You throw the coil of rope down this tunnel, and something very strange happens. It doesn't uncoil. It should just unwrap and fall all the way to the ground. You have enough length of rope that it should take you down to those doors. But instead, that coil stays put, and almost magnetically is the only way you can fathom this in your mind. It just becomes like glued to one side of the wall, just like a foot down.
Just kind of like lifting the rope and like trying to shake it out.
Put your arm down to grab the rope, and your arm feels a slight pull there as well. It's not a heavy pull. It's not enough that you can't fight it. But as you reach down, your arm just kind of like moves towards the wall as well in a fashion that you just didn't expect. And you can grab the rope, and it's perfectly fine. Just like its own weight, you're pulling it off and you pull it back.
So there are times when I try to have Ven go straight and Ven smells something and goes in that direction despite my best efforts. There is some sort of force down there where, despite my effort to throw rope and put arm in that direction, everything is going that way.
Do I sense any magic at work here?
You absolutely would sense magic at work. What type of magic it is, it's nothing that you would have been trained in. It's nothing that you would have ever experienced before. It feels off, sort of like the Ashkesh tablets can, but it's not like anything you felt from those tablets.
I'm very curious. There is some sort of magical force here, I think. Something that is either serving as a protective barrier for this place, perhaps, or I wonder.
And so we haven't felt any kind of pull as we've been coming down here, right?
None whatsoever.
Like this is the first time we've noticed it.
Only when you throw that rope, only as soon as you like enter that hole, that drop. Which also explains why that water doesn't mist in the same way. It like stays to the wall.
Is the force so great that we cannot continue down, or does it simply hold us to the wall as we move down it?
I am strong enough to do what I need to do, but the rope could not. So I think somewhere in between.
Bacha will just try to go down the chute.
Wrap a rope around you, but if you become unable to move, we could perhaps lift you back up.
Yes, all three of us
wise.
will equally lift you back up.
I have no doubt,
deceptively
Pack
ripped,
Sister.
thank you, Mirren.
You wrap the rope around your waist and you lower yourself down. You've got your two paws locked into the ice, and you go leg first and just lower yourself. And as you're about chest down, you've got your arms here holding you up. You have the strangest sensation as if you're lying on your stomach. You're not falling down a hole. You are just lying on your stomach right now.
Bacho rotates around and tries to stand and just see if he can walk down this chute.
You try to stand, and the rest of you, it blows your mind because he is literally standing on this wall, perfectly normal. Bacho, it doesn't even require a move check. It's just as if gravity somehow shifted. It just bended 90 degrees.
Gunk, what is he doing? He is that way, but he's facing that way. That's not how that works. Gunk,
Yeah, no.
Gunk, what is
He's
happening?
figuring it out, I believe. Bacho is a very intelligent Wolfkin. What have you learned,
Figuring what
brother?
out?
In this tunnel, the force that holds us to the ground holds us to the wall. You can simply walk down it.
Very interesting.
It's as if I am simply walking along the path.
I want to
How-
try that.
How much do we know about gravity, by the way? Is like gravity like something like a concept that people understand?
I think it would be like there's no physics of gravity, but people would understand that things are pulled to the earth.
Okay.
There's no necessarily theory of gravity. Like
Okay.
Isaac Newton never got the apple dropped on his head yet.
Okay. All right. So it's
Mirren
just
will
magic then. It's just a magical.
Jump off the edge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mirren, you jump off and you
cast a
just
spell
land
magic.
hard on your bottom, right next to where you jumped off. It's as if you just fell 6 inches from the air.
I regret my
onto this wall.
decisions.
Would you like to go next, Gunk?
Yes, I will.
And he will not do what Mirren did. He will climb over the ledge and use the rope tied to Bacho as kind of like a guiding line to just sort of walk, down the wall or stand if he's allowed to.
Are you like going face down?
I'm trying to get, so if I'm So if I'm going over that, I'm climbing over it, but then I'm going to try to stand and walk down using the rope as a guiding line.
As you like pull the rope and you begin to like pull forward, it's the smoothest motion. It doesn't even feel as if anything's changing. It feels as if you're walking down a flat hallway. The way that this force just pulls you to the wall, you wouldn't have even noticed that there was a speed bump if you hadn't visually seen it.
It is fine,
Zaldrun does this in the most awkward sort of way. Like she like lays down on her stomach and sort of sideways tries to like figure this out, and she's got like arms and legs all akimbo and is just like, this is not how this works. She's not settled.
So you like put one limb down and then another. So you've got like an arm and a leg on one side and an arm and a leg on another side. And then you just kind of roll with it. And after you roll, you are just lying on your back. This water is like splashing underneath you. And it's perfectly fine, as if you're looking up in the hallway, as if nothing changed.
I am fine.
I'm not.
Here, I will help Mirren up if that is possible. Grab the rope just to be safe.
Okay, yeah, that's probably a good idea. Mirren will do that.
Bacho, you were the first one down. And like I said, it's only about a 20, 30-foot drop. So it doesn't take long to get to these stone doors. The stone doors are also about 20 foot long. Like they go the entire span of this tunnel. There's no real markings on them. With the way you have reoriented yourself, they look to be normal doors. It's not like a trap door or something. It looks like you just push it open. There's no real handle or anything like that. They're very primitive looking doors.
Bacho will put his shoulder into it and just see if he can shove his way through.
And you do, and you hear the stone scraping on stone as you begin to push one of the doors open. The rest of you are right behind him, I assume, right?
Zaldrun is still kind of crawling along in the back. Like she's just not situated with this yet.
It is. You can stand up. It's fine. Look at Bacho. I cannot. I'm catching up to Bacho. He needs my eyes.
I am bringing up rear. You just go ahead. You don't.
Okay.
As this door opens, it reveals a large cubic-shaped room, like 40 foot each way. There's a ceiling 40 foot above you, Bacha. The rest of you are still in this tunnel here. When the door fully opens, there is a tone, a flute-like tone. Gunk, you would immediately recognize this, but the rest of you, this is your first time hearing it. It's that same sort of music that you heard just 2 nights before, Gunk. Bacho, you're looking in, and each wall in this cube room has a door identical to the one that you just entered. And the center of this room is dominated by this large statue of a hooded, shrouded figure. Its face is entirely hidden underneath this deep hood. The walls are entirely identical with the decoration. There are reliefs carved into them. On each wall, there is a large relief above the door where you would be, of an owl skeleton in flight. And underneath that, like the lintel of the door, is an open book that appears to have blank pages. And upon entering this room, Bacho, you find that you aren't the only ones in this room. Or rather, you are the only ones in this room. Because as you look in each of these identical doors, you see yourself, identical copies of yourself. You can see Zaldrun crawling back behind you. There are 3 other copies of you. And the only thing you know is that this is not a mirror. You can see the depth. You see the distance. This is some sort of 3-dimensional space. Looking around the statue is yourself peering right back at you. That's where we're going to end the session tonight.
Oh.
So not only did you fail to kill Bacho last week when you had the chance, but now you're introducing three
Three
more
more.
bachos.
We got 4 bachos now.
Backup
Okay,
copies.
with those 4,
Quad of
we'll just
bachos.
go kill that Skaden really fast. Like no problem.
This is just fan service. The audience said they wanted bacho, so I'm giving more bacho. Literally.
Yeah.
Let's do some shout outs. Aaron, what's going on with Garblack?
Let's see. Nothing on Wednesday right now. We're on a bit of a hiatus on Wednesdays. On Thursday, Pete will be back with some more Traveler. And then on Tuesday, Millie will be back with Coriolis.
Jeff, what's going on with the Lollygaggers?
Yeah, man. I want to send some belated thank yous to Singularity Roleplay and Diesel Shot for the raids. They came in while we were in the middle of some serious moments, so I didn't get a chance to call it out, but thank you so much. If you are in the channel right now, go follow those channels if you haven't already. And if you have come over from the raids, consider following us as well. So that's the first thing. Then we've got some games coming down the pike. First of all, Thursday, brand new
Something
game.
new, I heard, right?
Something new. And we've done what everyone has been regularly asking us to do is we're kicking Steven the hell off the screen. And the 4 of us, along with a couple others, are finally going to play without him. So
there have been requests for me to talk less. I have seen that in chat.
It's very frequent. Yeah, they're like, I really like this Forbidden Lands game, but that guy in the middle, can you just put something over top of it?
Just a nightmare.
Actually, I invited Steven to the game, but he said no. I get enough with you guys on Tuesday. I don't want to play with you again.
No, you guys are so
Yeah.
much better without me. I didn't want to pull you down to my level. That's what
here we go. Here we go.
I'm a martyr, is what it is. I'm taking one for the team.
That is true. But anyhow, the game we're playing Die, the role-playing game from Rowan Rook and Descartes. It's relatively new, based on the comic by Kieran Gillen, Stephanie Hans. So we're gonna bust that out. First session, little session 0-y, little session 1, little blend of the two. So you can see all of us here, with the exception of Steven, in that game. Then on Friday would normally be Conan, but it sounds like we're going to be missing Conan this week. And I won't say whose fault it is, but I think
again, I'm a martyr. I'm taking one for the team. You guys don't want to play with me, so I'm just making you all cancel Conan. No.
Yeah, I think we're going to try to get a game in there. I think we're going to maybe do like a Black Sword hack or some other one shot. So we still got something going on Friday. And then on Saturday, we've got our usual One Ring game. And then on Monday, we'll be back to Holler, there is an outside chance that could be the finale of our Holler campaign. More than likely, we got 2 episodes left, but there's an outside chance that could be the last one. And then on Tuesday, we'll be back for this. Also, we just started up another game. We're starting up a lot of games. Why did I do this to myself? Why am I starting up all these games at the same time? This is like the hardest thing to do. Crazy.
Games are the best.
They are. Starting them up is hard. Delta Green, we just started. So then that is over on YouTube. We dropped it up yesterday, I guess, and also on our main podcast feed, the Adventures in Lolly podcast feed. So you can get that wherever you get your podcasts, all that kind of good stuff. So plenty of content out there, and hopefully a variety of games. So if you don't like one game, maybe you like a different, that kind of thing. So I think that's it, right?
Yeah, I think so. I would just like to say one thing about Delta Green while you're getting the raid ready. Some people in our friend group have said that my character is slightly cowardly.
Not slightly.
And I would just like to push back slightly on that. I think I was making intelligent, smart choices. So if you all could do me a favor, go watch it on YouTube and then get in the comments and tell Jeff that I was a smart player, not a cowardly player.
Tell them how great Melissa is at not being a cowardly player.
Melissa was braver, but arguably less smart. I don't know.
Indeed.
Get in the comments.
But watch the video and decide for yourself.
I don't know. All I got to say is if you're a Navy master diver, no one could ever describe you as a coward ever.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Melissa's holding up. She's holding up, I think, to that. Steven, I acclaimed author, complete opposite. So acclaimed, self-acclaimed. We'll see.
We have to see the path from episode 1 to possible Delta Green involvement. There's steps from point A to point Z, and we'll see what those look like.
All right, so we are going to go ahead and raid. Looks like Perception Studio. Their overlay has the word die with 3 exclamation points. I'm not sure if that means they're playing the game Die that we're going to be starting on Thursday, or if they're just giving us a very dark command. But we're going to find out in a minute, so follow the raid. If you haven't followed us on Twitch, please do. If you haven't subscribed to the channel on YouTube, please do it as well. And if you'd rather audio-only stuff, we got that out there as well. So look for wherever you get podcasts for our name. But that's it. Thank you to everybody who watched tonight, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.